Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and better than ever. It is shift number 35. Kaplan, do you like my outfit today? I did the top button just to get your reaction.
You know what? We top button up today. Let me get mine out as I choke back my triple chin I got going on. The little hat you got going looks pretty comfy though, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I saw it in a 21 Pilots music video. So ZP, I'm hip these days. Let's talk a little bit about what we're watching though, because it's European stars playing Deadlock. I've been hooked on this game. You've been bragging about how awesome this game is for a year and a half. I feel like we're hitting a peak. It's about time to launch this thing. So let's talk about the teams that have mastered it already. What have we seen from Lowkey, W, and Leviathan? As we take a look at the format, this will be a hell of a challenger matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I mean, both these teams have been champions here at Night Shift in recent memory. Lowkey W, of course, having recent changes where Empty Dream is out, Zergy is in, and they've still been looking to find their rhythm. Leviathan, of course, would like another shot at the crown versus Abrahams, who now has been resurgent. Where Abrahams, I mean, they had a rough streak where they were just out of it for something like 4 or 5 weeks and then finally got things together. And, of course, all these teams have a lot of recent experience against each other because in addition to last week's Night Shift, they're also playing the Death Slam Invitational this weekend. So we got a lot of data and a lot of drafting that really got refined over the course of the weekend.
Now, of course, we're going to be starting with our EU Challenger matchup. That'll lead to our money match for EU. The second half of the show is all about North America, where Melee Creeps and Floorman in Grand Finals is awaiting you in that Challenger Best of One. We'll get to that in a little bit. Before we do, though, got to give a shout out to Shopify for making this show possible. And with Shopify, we have increased the prize pool to a Deadlock Night Shift record. So, Kaplan, tell me about this deal. How should the folks at home make use of Shopify?
Well, if you've ever had an idea, you wanted to make it a reality, if you ever had a dream out there, Puckett, have you ever had a dream? You've had a dream.
Two. Yeah. lucid ones.
2 lucid dreams. Well, you have one of your dreams, I think, in your daughter, but you ever had a dream about ways to improve your life, things that you love doing that you want to figure out a way you can make it into income for yourself. Shopify does a fantastic job of helping you invest in yourself with this new AI sidekick. It can help you pretty much put together any sort of business you want to. All you have to focus on is what do I do and what do I do best? That's why I commentate, because that's the only good thing I can do in my life. And I let Sidekick handle the rest. You can type ! Shopify in chat to learn a little bit more and check them out, as they are one of our amazing sponsors here on the show, making this one happen and getting the extra bucks here to all the players out there.
Also, I saw some people asking questions in the chat. Can somebody point me to a good Infernus build? Well, I'll tell you what, I've been downloading tracklock.gg. The tool has helped me get better already. I have it open on a second monitor if I don't have the app open. And ZP, I learned why people enjoy playing Wraith. If you use the actual build, not the suggested build in game, you can fry. You've got some incredible builds, and I know you have highlighted some of our top pros. If you're looking to learn from an Infernus, who would you go and replicate?
Ooh, if I was looking to replicate an Infernus, I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? Because Infernus has really come into the meta in the last few weeks, where he went from not getting played to all of a sudden people think, oh, we got played. And a lot of the builds, basically, no matter who you go for, you're going to be working around dash builds, generally speaking. But if you're looking for specific Infernus players, I mean, look, we're about to cast Lowkey W. Vrake has been doing a whole lot of Infernus. That may be a good starting point for this first matchup, where I think it's probably likely to come to play. Although it was kind of interesting between these two teams that Infernus fell off and then it showed up in the finals. It's been back and forth, but yeah, start with Vrake.
Do we have the pick priority from last week? If so, let's bring that up. If not, we can jump right into this week's matchup. And here we do. Solomon, the wizard, is behind the scenes once again. Look how swift he is on the fingers. We saw Vent banned quite a bit. Silver made it through, and when she did, she was first picked. Infernus, as you mentioned, only made it through half the games, and Shiv took the place of Vent. What else did you learn last week, Kaplan?
The Abrams is not, in fact, dead. I think we've had quite a few weeks in a row where he was picked 1, maybe 2 times, but to see him now overtake Billy in quite a substantial way, Billy only picked and banned twice in last week's Night Shift, I think really kind of shows that people kind of overcorrect themselves, I think, when there's any nerfs or buffs end up happening. I think we saw that with Infernus as well as ZP. But Abrams, the Siphon Life build, where you just kind of have the extra survivability in these fights to be that front line, has been very impactful.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting how Abrams, even when he drops out of the meta for a little bit, it kind of reminds me of Shiv, where we've had, believe it or not, we've actually had a few weeks where Shiv is not meta, and then people realize, wait, this hero is still actually good. Abrams kind of went through that period of turbulence where he got some nerfs and shotgun basically was not the way to go, but then got buffed back up. People realized spirit build was actually good, and as it turns out, having the ability to charge people, displace them, and set them up for picks is still really, really good, even if your shotgun isn't doing 9,000 damage in the process.
Shiv's still pretty good. Mina used to be awesome. Is she going to get back into play? If not, is there anyone from that 0 or 1 column you expect to move up, Mr. Kaplan?
To move up? I mean, I think Mina is definitely a good shout for sure, considering OCs does heavily rely on her, and that's what we're going to be seeing up first as a take on Lowkey W. In terms of some other heroes, I don't know, maybe some Doorman. ZP, I think you were pretty much watch part of the entire Death Slam Invitational, and I believe you did see quite a few Doormans.
Well, yeah, who played it twice, I believe, and Lowkey W, they won once against Abrahams with it, and then they lost and got knocked out in their final map of the tournament with Hoot on Doorman. So kind of a mixed success there. Mina, though, is actually way up, and part of it is because people have realized if you give OCs Mina, you probably lose the game. So every game that both Abrahams and Lowkey W were playing against Leviathan, Mina became a first-round pick, where if you were picking second, you would pick Mina as one of your 2 picks every single time, just because you did not want OCs to play the character.
I accidentally knew the meta, guys. Here we go. Let's jump into our rosters for the day. If you don't know the players, they've been here before, and we have had them so many times in the grand finals. This time around, though, it's just a best of 1, so you got to go big right here. Talk me through the lineup. ZP, who's your favorite player on this team to watch?
Favorite player, actually, after the weekend, I enjoy Listic's reliability in frontline, where I feel like people sometimes underrate how much Listic brings to the team, where you may look at it like, oh man, look at Hoot, he's so good at moving heroes, etc. Listic is the one player that will actually like somehow have games where he goes like 1 and 8, and you're like, that was the most effective 1 and 8 I've ever seen. Way to go on Abrams. But for me, when I look at Lowkey W, and I'm wondering, okay, storylines, where it's going to go, they have to get a big win with Zergy at this point. Ever since they swapped rosters and they brought in Empty Dreams, or rather they took out Empty Dreams and brought in Zergy, they have been losing a lot of these games. They haven't quite found their rhythm yet. And I know it was a change made with the long-term plan in mind, but in the short term, they've been stumbling since making that roster change. I'm curious if today will be the day that they make their first step forward.
Kaplan has a crew. We've done over 65 episodes. That's weekly episodes for Deadlock. Over a year of action, and we have seen Zergy fry on so many different M1 heroes in the past. Wraith didn't work for him last week. What do you want to see him run this week? Is there going to be a change in the play?
You know, I think ZP would agree with me on this one. Maybe put him on Mirage. Maybe don't let Cosmetical play Mirage. Let Zergy play. It could be an M1 powerhouse that we know Zergy likes to be. I think the biggest thing I've seen from this last weekend is I was very critical of him picking Wraith and pretty much only Wraith last week on the night shift, but to see him finally flex out to some other heroes, to more quote unquote meta heroes in recent times, shows to me that he's working on his game. He's working on kind of like adapting or kind of like figuring out what the meta is going to be and what he can play in this meta, as it was definitely one of those like hardcore Wraith 7 kind of players back in the day. So he's, I think, needs to have the biggest glow up in the team right now.
If you're just joining us in the Deadlock universe, Hoot was my favorite player to watch. Great streamer to learn from. Zergy, though, had the mechanical aim, and what blew my mind was he plays this well with a trackball. An old school trackball. He needs to keep it clean. He puts a lot of time and effort into this thing, and he's not 40, ZP. He's still in his 20s, right?
Yeah, I mean, somehow that just worked out where his parents said, hey, here's a trackball, and he just stuck with it. Even to the point that, you know, there's some famous AIM community people that play Deadlock, and they even comment on Zergy being like, okay, can we do an interview with you? Can we, like, study you for science? Like, what you're able to do on a trackball actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Bro, Zergy's got the healthiest wrists in all of esports right now because he plays on a trackball, but his thumb is jacked. So? I think he has a 6-pack on his thumb.
Where he looks like a T-Rex just permanently clawing forward. Let's take a look at his opponents today. We got Overseas, OCs, Freemock, Ray Ake, Irazumi, and Sai. If you're looking for the Slayers, look no further than OCs and Overseas. They were our top MVPs in the past. Freemock has had some great games, but tell me about Sai. Who is this guy? What's his role on the squad, Kaplan?
He's kind of like the support, I would say. He's like kind of like the second support of the team. I think that's probably the best way to put it. We've been seeing him play, I believe, like a lot of Viscous in the past as well. So he's kind of he's not like the full-on support, the healer for the team. He's more of like a, not even pick support's the right word. He would be like a position 5 if you're talking over North America, and he just kind of facilitates kills for his teammates.
Oh, position 5. I have no idea what the hell that means. ZP, break it down for me.
So if you're saying position 5, that means he gets the second least souls on the team if you're allocating, essentially. Okay. But the interesting thing for Sai is that Sai has become somewhat of a Sinclair main in recent times, where over the course of the weekend, if Leviathan got Sinclair, where they were highly prioritizing it in the first round of the draft, it would be Sai on the Sinclair, and Irizumi like ended up being Splatter Viscous, pumping out a good amount of damage, believe it or not. So Leviathan kind of shifting around in that. But overall, I think Jason's assessment is right in terms of, Sai is playing a lot of the heroes that may be more in the utility bucket and, not always the most farmed on the team. At some point, we'll actually update the signature heroes here, but I'm just continually amused at the fact that there's 3 Mo and Krills. Like, I kind of want to keep Mo's. That.
Yeah, and we're going to see the best Mo in the whole world a little bit later in the show, ladies and gentlemen. Saint is going to be taking the stage. Kaplan, we got to talk a little bit about what goes down, though, before a best of 1. We settle things the old freestyle way with a Mo and a Krill 1v1. How did this come about, and how can I bring it to my games to decide who I get the lane with?
I think you're asking the wrong person about how that came about. I think the person's to my, I guess,
the Warlord?
Right? Yeah, I think he's the one that initially like brought up the idea of just having to do a 1v1 battle in mid pit.
Yeah, and look, it worked out. I think someone in chat even had an offhand combat like Mo and Krill 1v1. I think I saw it as like, you know what, we can do that. We can make it happen. The only way you don't get to see a Mo and Krill 1v1, where it still went down, but the action was clearly too brutal to put on screen, is that the players ended the game too early. So the replay code we got does not work. The Mo and Krill 1v1 happened, but you're just going to have to imagine
it's their first time, fisticuffs. It's the first time they've done this. They're not used to having to do these Mo 1v1s. It's not like it's their
We've never had a replay issue ever on this show either, especially not live. Shout out to tracklock.gg. Go check out their awesome app. Here we go. Lowkey W versus Leviathan. We're going into our first draft brought to you by Shopify. And Leviathan, looks like they chose to ban first. Do you think they won the 1v1 ZP, or are teams preferring to go second?
It's hard to say. Preference on first or second was all over the place this weekend. Ven being banned first, though, was very common and often responded to with a ban on the Shiv. Like, Ven and Shiv got hit with all sorts of first bans over the last few days. And I think the issue that Leviathan has in their draft is that I don't think they're a good team with Mirage. Like, I don't think Cosmetical is the most comfortable on playing that hero so far. So for Leviathan, you're looking to angle for a draft where you could let Cosmetical play something like the Mina if possible. Now, do you want to first pick Mina? Probably not, but maybe that's where we're going. We'll see.
Viscous, bro?
Yeah. I mean, as ZP was saying, you see a lot of Irizumi playing Viscous as of late, especially over the weekend. Honestly, ZP, we talked about this before we started the broadcast today, and I was saying that if OCs doesn't do well, they don't really win games. So why not just first pick him a hero every single time? And I think Mina is by far his best hero.
I think he's won MVP every time he's played Mina in a grand final. Here we go with the Sinclair opening. And ZP, you warned me about this before the show started. Why do you answer back with this early with the Sinclair? Does he do weapon damage? Why is he a top priority?
I mean, Sinclair's good not only because of his laning, but also what it does to mid-boss, and the fact that heroes like Dynamo are pretty good at the moment, so Clone actually kind of ties your hands a little bit in the draft. So Sinclair has multiple things going for him, but he was picked in this position by basically every team all weekend long. Silver being put in along top of it makes sense. I mean, Silver was generally the outright first pick. The interesting part here is Leviathan wanted OCs on Mina so much that they made it the raw overall first pick, but also, they get the Shiv, which is super interesting because Shiv was usually first pick, first ban. So they're getting some extra value here, Leviathan.
You go Kelvin, the old school combo, Kaplan, or is there something new?
I was gonna say, I don't need to answer because we have the pick coming through. I don't know necessarily. I don't think you're that afraid of Hoots Kelvin anymore. And I don't think Shiv necessarily needs a Kelvin by his side anymore to really be successful with the way that we see Freemok in particular play him. I think it's more of the Dynamo I'm looking towards, because Dynamo would be such a good hero to shut down a Shiv, just locking him in, no way to escape, take away his mobility. But a Bebop. I saw someone in chat talking about Bebop today, and I had to shut that down, but I didn't expect to see him be picked at all.
Yeah, Bebop was pretty well picked this weekend. Not in every game, but people have realized the glory of the gun bop. It's not just Erebus for FPS Lounge making it work, but Lowkey W coming in frontline-wise, grabbing Billy makes sense. I think Listic probably actually looked the best on Billy this weekend, so shoring that up. In terms of where the draft goes from here, though, I'm really concerned about Lowkey W and M1 options here. Specifically, like who's Cosmetical gonna play, who's Zergy gonna play. It may be a Wraith game, and only OC's made Wraith look good this weekend, and they lost that game.
Okay, you got Billy and Silver though as your frontliner. I wouldn't want any other front line when I'm playing Wraith, right? Maybe Abrams. Is there something better that you combo this with? What do you want to add here? You have Apollo, who's now going to dart in, dart out with some explosive damage. Kaplan, how do you see this Lowkey W roster finishing?
I almost wanted to say a Dynamo, but I feel like Bebop is just going to be a decent enough counter to that. But having like a Dynamo for protection for your M1 was definitely something we've seen. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Dynamo has the highest win rate across all pro matches in the last couple of weeks at like 70-something%, which is insane out of 21 games. So I would have been too surprised to see Dynamo come through if it does happen, but I still think you have to worry about the Bebop in particular. And of course, Mina, it'd be very difficult to lock her down to even use the singularity against her. But I do like the Billy as a way to counter her. And not to mention, Apollo's going to be so slippery here too.
Is that Irizumi on the Rem, ZP?
100%. It's going to be Irizumi on the Rem. And as I look to Lowkey W picks here, I wonder if they go Mirage and then maybe put Zergy on the Mirage as opposed to putting Cosmetical on it. We'll see who we got here. We got Wraith. So okay, it's gonna be Zergy on the Wraith. And again, it's interesting because we saw some of the peak potential at Wraith from OCs in the final match on the weekend, but it was also, it still didn't win the game. Like, and that was OCs, who seemingly gets more out of Wraith than anyone else. And they're gonna round things out here with Lash. So at the very least, I'm kind of looking at this. It's gonna be Cosmetical Lash, maybe. I still like that better than the Mirage in terms of his hero pool, but you know, we'll see where it goes for Lowkey W.
What is Hoot playing right now? Is he Apollo?
I think he would be the Sinclair. Then Obi-Kin would be the Apollo.
Turn to Paradox for help.
I don't know.
On the other side,
you see Lowkey W playing Sinclair
in
on the weekend?
I'm trying to remember who was on which. That sounds right, though. But okay, Paradox and finish things off. All in all, it's kind of interesting because without any team history whatsoever, there's part of me that would look at the draft and think Lowkey W is stacked with the exception of having to go with the Wraith. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't go Warden, actually, now that I think about it, because like Zergy looked good on the Warden this weekend. I actually thought the Warden looked better than the times he's played Wraith. You know, I would like their draft a little bit better with the Warden, but the first half of the draft feels a little bit more stacked for Lowkey W, except for the part that Leviathan doesn't lose when OC is on the Mina, so that really kind of warps my view of this draft a little bit.
Does Irizumi have his best player, his best character?
I don't think I could tell you best. I'd have to go back and look at the stats.
Because I think OC's has his best. I feel like Shiv is in very good hands. I'm wondering, like, who has a weakness? Who's playing in a role that they're not comfortable, or is everyone very comfortable in all of these positions? The Wraith did not look comfortable last week. She was behind, could not get into that huge lead that they needed. The games were over before she could get to that super level. So let's talk big picture while we buy our players time. You see the draft. Who wins it, Kaplan?
I kind of want to give it to Lowkey W. I think the fact that one Wraith is acceptable, considering you have a Sinclair for protection, you have a Billy for protection, you have a Lash for protection. So it's very easy to play in a backline as a Wraith. Will they get to the point that he's going to be a powerhouse? That's yet to be seen. But for Leviathan side, I mean, you do have that like threat of just being hooked in and obliterated. But also you have the ability to open up with like a nap time from Rem, and then you're going to get hooked or you're going to get CC'd. And to kind of hit a combo for Lowkey W will be quite difficult if Irizumi plays Rem like we know he can. I think that's maybe the one X factor for Leviathan I see here, ZP.
As I look at it here, the part of the draft I don't love, Lowkey W decided to ban Viscous first ban because Irizumi was playing nothing but Viscous for a lot of the tournament, getting a lot of like mileage off of his splatter builds. I don't know if that was worth it, because in turn for banning the Viscous, you basically gave up both Shiv and Mina at the same time, because you grab Sinclair Silver, you leave the Shiv open, Freemock now gets to play Shiv. That's the part of the draft that like looks really a little bit ugly to me, and I think not off the raw power of the draft, but based on who likes what they're playing, I actually give Leviathan a bit of the edge here. Just you got Freemock Shiv, you got OC's Mina. Towards. Yeah.
And then Hoot's going to be like, oh, by the way, guys, did you know I play this hero too? Really, really well. I haven't seen Zergy pop off since 7. That's how long the meta has been since Zergy has been winning on this show. He took a bit of a hiatus. He has found his way back onto a pro team. Kaplan, that's what I was most excited about in last week's storyline. Do we think he is now a mainstay with Lowkey W? Is Empty Dreams done?
I don't think they would pick him up if he wasn't going to be a mainstay, honestly. It would make no sense for me to take away a player that you're already winning generally with and then bring in someone else just to drop him a week or two later. It's not NA here. We're EU. Things are a little bit more stable. But the thing is, I think they have the willingness to play with him enough till he gets comfortable, until he becomes that 7 that you were talking about before, that like God 7 raining death from above. And I don't know, maybe just the meta isn't really going towards him right now. I would still like to see him on things like Venator if they can secure him that early. I would like to see him on Mirage as well, because I still rate Zergy as a really good kind of split pusher. But I'm not really a huge fan of seeing Wraith at the moment.
Chat, do we see Venator in EU tonight? That is the question. We have seen some recent games. ZP, while we're waiting on the players, do you want to give us a little rundown of what you were watch partying this weekend? Because the night shift has not just been live on Wednesdays. We've been up and running all the time, and there's been a lot of competitive action. We want to give a shout out to everyone in the community.
Yeah, we were watching the Death Slam Invitational, of course, put on by Death Slam Events. It's Deathy's project, and they had a big EU tournament going on this weekend, and we were watch partying that the entire way through. I was just absolutely destroyed on sleep, but hey, we went for it. And yeah, actually though, to kind of answer the Ven question, is that when Abraham's and Leviathan play against each other, Ven actually gets play. Like, he's not always banned. Leviathan got to play him in a game. Abraham's got to play him. Like, he did see a little bit of play rather than being perma banned. The one thing that's kind of interesting that like seemingly changed over the course of 2 days though, is that the weekend was defined by Celeste going up and up in value. Like, Celeste was played in every single match of the grand final, and then you take a look at the draft here in this best of one, and Celeste is just completely ignored. Not picked last, certainly not prioritized at the front. So I don't know how much of that was an Abraham's Leviathan specific thing, or just teams kind of reevaluating and went, wait a second, we actually don't need to play Celeste.
While they sort out their lanes, got to give a big shout out to Shopify, and a reminder, chat, don't get weird when Shoppy's on the screen. We got a note about it. I'm talking to you, Sketchy.
Oh my God. How much did you pay him, Sketchy, to get him to say your name on air? That's what I want to know, because I could have did it for cheaper.
He's subbed for 8 months. I saw him pop up earlier.
Oh, okay. That's acceptable then. But yeah, ZP, going into this one, man, this is going to be interesting, because again, it's best of one. These teams have met each other just over the weekend. You know, NA, I don't think got a single win, which is great to see. I don't know why I'm bashing on NA when I've been talking them up for the last like 3-4 weeks. But, you know, you come to EU and you can't win, that's expected.
Yeah, I mean, look, ping is still a bit of a factor, but taking a look at the lanes that we got here from the get-go, gonna have a Mina Paradox lane on the right for Leviathan, mid lane, Rem Abrams, which makes all a bit of sense. I mean, a lot of times when Leviathan, actually, it's a little bit weird, because normally you'd run the Rem with the Shiv, and in this case they said, no, we're just gonna run Shiv middle with Bebop. That's actually really weird to me, Jason, to have a look at, because usually the Abrams and the Shiv would be reversed.
I think you could do a lot of like kill potential though. I mean, if you're gonna pair a hero with Bebop, you technically could do Abrams, but I feel like you're gonna be too weak of a lane to really do much if you can't hit these hooks. But with a Shiv there, paired with the Bebop, I think you do have that potential, a hook into a dash, and you're already missing like a ton of HP. But the really interesting note that I'm seeing for Lowkey W is actually gonna be Obi-Kim over on the Sinclair, and Hoot's gonna be on the Silver, and Vrake's gonna be on the Apollo. So a little bit of a switch up than what I would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to say that mid-draft is that Hoot generally has been the Silver player for Lowkey W purely because Silver just kind of scales with movement. So you have arguably the best movement player in the world. Like, you'll usually get Hoot on the Silver unless something like a Doorman is being played in. But, you know, the actual true love of Hoot, by the way, is Doorman from all accounts behind the scenes. And Rayek actually getting pummeled down a little bit poke-wise in the beginning here in mid.
He would make a fantastic Doorman cosplay, I will say, though. One day, if that happens. So we do have an initial kill coming on this right-hand side. Obi-Kim taking down OCs. And again, I think we talk about this every week. The win condition for Leviathan is generally OCs having a good game. So this early pressure coming through already netting them a fairly good start.
While we celebrate First Blood, guys, can we also give a call out? We need about 500 more followers. We will hit 40,000 followers on the channel. We can get there tonight. Tell your friends if you haven't done it and you're here on the channel already, just hit the follow button right now.
There you go. I didn't actually realize we were close to 40k. Just it creeps up on you, as it turns out. Just like Abrams, maybe creeping up on Apollo on the left. Bit of rotation. Looking left, of course. Also looking at OCs here. Back to lane and getting some reasonable damage here onto Sinclair with the rake fall through. Cyan overseas, though, super low elsewhere on the map.
Oh man, they really want to commit for this kill, or maybe just the Guardian. See, let's look for the track down onto overseas, who's going to be relatively fine, and Arizumi as well. I just heard a kill come through. I'm not sure if you heard that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a desync going on somehow. Because I thought I heard that in the beginning too with the intro theme. I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Now, was that in the future or was that in the past? I feel like it was in the past.
It's all relative. It's all relative to where you were as AP, I guess, or whose observer feed you were on. But I mean, again, like OC's having a little bit of a struggle on the right-hand lane. But paired with the Paradox, I don't know how I feel about Paradox and Bebop together in a team, because it is double pick potential. It can kind of also facilitate not needing to go for a Phantom Strike so early for overseas to get a lockdown onto someone. And you also do have, I guess, Bebop to deal with a lash in the air, making it relatively hard to hit these big death slams.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. I mean, you have to go pretty far back, I think, to get to a point where we saw double pick with any sort of regularity. Although I think part of it is that Bebop, people going gun build, you're actually more willing to give Bebop a bit more farm than you used to in the past. So, I mean, Rayek may be a little bit greedier on the Bebop, getting extra farm because Gunbop actually is just that strong at the moment.
Yeah, he's definitely a player on their team that would be given farm too. I mean, typically like a Celeste player for them as well. So he's used to getting a lot of farm soaked up, and the team's definitely gonna be playing around that to help facilitate how successful he can be. It is a bit weird though to not see Obikim on the Apollo, considering I feel like they've had a lot of success with him on Apollo in the past few weeks. A break, I think, probably has the most pressure on the team to perform here, considering you're basically looking like the old buff enjoyers with this roster.
The old buff enjoyers. Why aren't you winning championships like buff enjoyers? Also, look at Break. You may have cast or cursed a little bit under pressure, both ends, but again, a little bit of support. At the same time, Silver taking down Freemok, Hoot right there, and the laning, maybe wanting a little bit more right now. Poking in, but also the dive would have been lethal to the towers, so you stop when you've gotten value. Yeah,
relatively fine when it comes to being healed up by the minions too. And again, already Lowkey W off to 2 early kills, a nice 2k lead as well as we hit the 5-minute mark. Also really enjoying, you can see on the left-hand side, a little bit of an adaptation to our UI here from the tracklock.gg guys. With their tracklock app, we can see the permanent buffs that everyone has from these golden statues coming on through. You can see at the moment Listic with his 30 plus HP has 0.5% CDR, and this is something you definitely need to keep an eye on the later the game goes on, considering I think we talked quite a bit last week's ZP about a lot of the lack of souls being made up in these golden statue buffs.
Yeah, and of course, this would be even cooler if people were still going egg, but generally speaking, they are not, as Ram getting hit with that bash down towards the very end. Chengang coming out here courtesy of Listic on the overseas rising Ram, and with the locket, you're going to be able to get away. Where, we talked about it on the last night shift and saw it all over the course of the weekend, but probably the most improved item over the last few weeks as far as people picking it. Rusto Locket is just everywhere right now, especially against Apollo.
I think we had like 6 or 7 pickups in one of the games. The Death Slam's going to come in, and Cosmetical is not really going to have a chance to follow up on it as he gets taken out of the sky with Nox Nostra coming on through out of OCs. He's got a little bit of temp there, but also a switch up in gank as well with Freemok joining in that right-hand lane, helping to facilitate OCs to get himself back in the match. Is at 4.6 thousand souls.
We didn't really talk too much about it in the draft phase in terms of who wants a game to go early versus late. And, in theory, Lowkey W should be more comfortable with the game going late, but it's hard to say. Like, on one hand, you double pick character, you'd be like, okay, yeah, just get the late game and you win. Like, Leviathan is under time pressure. On the other hand, I also just see visions of a 50k OCs devouring the game.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I think you hit the nail on the head when it came to Sinclair being discussed as a first pick. The mid-boss control that it gives you is ridiculous. I think the one thing they have to be careful of is you're still running up against a nap time, you're running up against a hyper beam, and of course, the Seismic Impact out of Oversiege, which I wouldn't be too surprised to see him max out first for that unstoppable so they can go for the contest in towards middle. But I think for me, it's definitely something that Lowkey are going to be keeping an eye on.
Things getting rotated on into the left. Irozumi actually eating some of the damage from the Floss Advance. Bit of a change in tempo here as Leviathan ends up pushing back against Lowkey W. So far, no one dying yet. Swap. Gonna come out here off the clone, and Zergy takes down Sai in the aftermath.
That was that's quite a bit of damage actually going to Zergy there. To be fair, even going for a potential dive, Telekinesis trying to pull Overseas out of position. But the Siphon Life is doing a lot of work here, and Zergy's just trying to stay away from the seismic impact, and it's gonna actually be a retreat out of Overseas. Well, certainly would have cost him his life if he did go for Zergy there. Just have Rem off to his side, presuming to be joining the party once again, and maybe a push coming through. Fremont has gotten aggressive towards the backhand side, taking down Zergy as a pillow fight breaking out against Obi-Kim, who just teleports back to his assistant right in the open arms of Overseas. And Leviathan now off to the first lead of the game.
Everything just went bad for Lowkey W at the same time all around the map. And part of that, just the walking in. Wait, Overseas is still hungry. Might he be out to get hoot here? Waiting for it. Needs the right angle. And Sai just comes in, finishes it off. And they get the Guardian. Jason, the entire thing just flipped.
Huge. Go ahead, Pocket.
Sorry, over on YouTube, they asked a great question. Who finishes with more kills, Fremont or Hoot on the frontline role?
Fremont. I actually think... No, Fremont Shiv, like legitimately, I have gotten so much respect for Fremont Shiv as time has gone on, where I think Fremont gets more out of the Shiv than the average. And I mean, look, Hoot plays a good silver, but especially with the way the game's going right now, my money's on Fremont.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, right? I think that's slightly cheating, though, with how the game's been going.
As he dies.
Yeah. I mean, that's the caster curse right there, verbatim. So Kim gets the kill. Even looking for some more here. Probably going to be able to take out Sai in a second. As Hoot comes in, and he gets a kill. What was I telling you, man? Hoot's going to have the most kills. But yeah, no, with the way the game is going, it's going to be a little bit tough to do so. And even OCs is here, and honestly, we're seeing such big commitments out of both teams towards these Guardians. As the Yarden's going to be spawning in about 15 seconds time, which is probably one of the reasons why we've seen a big commitment out of both teams to go for the initial pickup, and of course, these buffs. But it comes down to these ultimates coming online, and Lowkey W have quite a few just on the cusp.
There's a bit of a chase down going on the OCs. He was able to get away, though. And to no one's surprise, OC's having a rip-roaring start. But we're at 10 minutes. The buffs are out, and so is the urn. We'll see who gets urn control here from the get-go. Leviathan, Boom Paradox, and Abraham's up and over. Swap onto the cloned Abrams ult into the shoulder charge, except no imitation, says Overseas. Running forward to try and finish off, but while this goes on, Frank's able to sneak the urn pickup, has to immediately drop it. Both teams all in for the opening pickup, and Vrake maybe a little bit deep. Apollo, or no, the damage is a little bit too overwhelming. The riposte just put him in a really tough spot, Jason.
And Overseas was able to pick up the urn and actually escape from this one, and they're positioning to defend on it as they're still fighting on this left-hand side and coming out with some relatively good kills. A hook coming through could be enough to turn it into another.
Overseas.
Needs to be careful.
Free dunk.
Too bad we don't have the LeBron skin on. That'd be like a real dunk coming through. But yeah, they win the fight. They get the urn turn in. I think one upside here for Lowkey W, though, to stop the rot was taking that middle Guardian. So this gained something out of what looked pretty dire, but it's still going to be a 6K difference here. Only 11 minutes in. And OC's is on a kill streak, and he's at 11,000 souls. Now 12th to kill on Vrake. This is a very worrying sign now for Lowkey W.
Yeah, things are falling apart in short order. And, well, yeah, I mean, if you're running double pick, you'd kind of expect the early game to be a little bit more centered towards Leviathan, but you can't love the soul allocation that's already coming into play. I mean, this was probably the most likely win condition for Leviathan if things went well for them, was OC's just getting ahead of the game. And, I mean, it's sticking to the script here so far.
I don't like it, though, ZP. And I'm not afraid to say that. I don't like your win condition is one person winning the game for you. Like, I can understand, you know, oh, it's Faker. Okay, that makes sense because it's Faker. Everyone knows Faker.
Yeah.
But you need someone else to be able to step up to have that ability to carry it. And maybe I'm like kind of overcorrecting saying that, because obviously for OCs to get to that point, you have to be able to stall at the mid game and have a strong start so you can have the ability to farm up. But we never see anyone else on Leviathan. I've said this I feel like for months now to be able to step up big enough to carry a game for the team.
I think some of it, though, is like a little bit behind the scenes where apparently you pull EU players and they go, who's the best player in Leviathan? It's not even OCs who they go to. They go, no, it's overseas. It's it's a name that sounds vaguely similar to OCs.
Should I just confuse them for OCs?
No, I'm pretty sure, yeah, as it turns out. Like the level of respect for overseas is pretty there. So I think when it comes to your characters that need a lot of farm, you always got to look a little bit to the support system. And I think Leviathan does a really, really good job of just enhancing, the support for OCs over the course of these games.
To be fair, I think with Mina, it's very easy to look flashy, and I think it's a lot more difficult to be flashy with like an Abrams, because you really depend on like Warpstone or Phantom Strike to have those flashy kind of plays.
Whoa!
But we do see potential flashy play coming on through here with a little bit of a sneak attack.
Well, they open the slowing hex, and we'll see if the fall through is going to be there. Billy is there at the beginning, ends up himself getting taken for a ride, was there for the protection, but maybe getting put into the ground as a result. OC's looking for the cleanup. Movement gets in close enough for the rake, finishes it off, and Listic, a get down Mr. President moment, but what was it for here, Jason? You still lose the walker.
And you lose Listic's life. Maybe you can trade one yourself, and oh yeah, we see the HP. It is going to fall here in just a second. Cosmetical going to even commit for this if he needs to. Yeah, he's going to go on down here. Maybe another kill, actually. This time on to Hoot. We talked about the free mock versus Hoot battle, and, well, unfortunately, we're not going to see it here as we just talked about it. But now we're seeing a mid-transition out of Leviathan, so they weren't done just on the right-hand walker. That mid-walker is very low in HP.
Yeah, they get it. And they got Zergy. Like, Zergy went to go defend it, gets caught. So you lose some of the uptime on your M1. You lose the mid-walker. The level of map control that Leviathan is going to have now is absolutely unreal. And, very quickly, Jason, we're starting to run into a situation of what are the Lowkey W win conditions? I mean, shutting down Arizumi, that's part one. Hoot just dimes and dashes and jump scare hook at the very end there, Jason.
I swear, we need like a Five Nights at Freddy's Bebop skin. I think that would go pretty hard. Just a random Chuck E. Cheese doll getting a hook from downtown. But yeah, I mean, the win conditions, like the steps to get back to the game, not that Lowkey W are out whatsoever. I think for Leviathan, don't go for mid boss. Don't give him a chance to steal away from you. Just keep playing the game that you're playing. Keep letting OCs get more and more souls, man. He's at 18k and they're still picking up kills even without him. And he's so far ahead of the rest of the team.
I will say, like, the ability to play safely for Lowkey W is kind of tough versus double pick, where you have at any point in the map, you're at risk of getting swapped or hooked in basically any lane, or in some cases both at the same time. And they're so far ahead now, Jason. This is advantage earn for Lowkey W, and Leviathan going out of their way to make sure that it's not an easy dunk for Lowkey W. Looking for the full contest. Sinclair goes for the Sinclair goes for the swap off the hyper beam.
That was sick. Keeping his hyper beam going, swaps with his assistant, looking for another angle to attack. Ballistic coming on in. Chain Gang's going to connect on quite a few here, and you can see that really what can Rag do in this position as Lowkey were just swarming all over them. And honestly, ZP, this is a fight they need to win.
Overseas comes in though, fresh and ready off the seismic slam. Break ending up half HP. Now you got OCs on the hunt. Going for Vrake, takes him down with eases. Overseas, not too much worse for the wear. Down the half HP as Abrahams, but making all sorts of space. Still hungry for a little bit more. In off the shoulder charge. How much more does Sinclair have left in the tank? Enough to turn him into a bunny, go seismic slam. But while this goes on, Overseas is just going to happily, Jason, take control of the urn. Now, getting control is one thing. Getting the dunk in the advantage urn territory is another.
Yeah, there's... Oh, come on. No, you should not get juked like this. One of you should have stayed back. I think it's going to be a kill either way. Yeah, you shouldn't have the freedom to go for this turn in. I mean, with Sinclair dead, there's a real chance you could go for mid boss, though. You don't really have to worry about that hex coming on through, but it doesn't seem like they want to be going for that just yet. And Overseas just baiting them in towards middle. OC's is circling around behind him. Listic has gone in deep to dislodge this urn, but will he escape with his life?
We'll see. I mean, Lowkey W, they're making a show of this urn because they desperately need it. It would get them back into the game, but that's also why Leviathan is fighting tooth and nail to keep it away from them. Overseas just tries to go for the raw pickup with fire all around him. A little bit worrisome. Swap comes in onto Hoot. Charge, I don't believe, was ready. Break gets the urn pickup, and you look at the minimap here. Should be a dunk for Lowkey W. Leviathan. Can they get anything in turn?
Hey, while this is happening, there's little helpers on that right-hand side lane, so that's going to be shoving up to the base gardens that someone's going to have to deal with. And the urn does get turned in by Vrake, so a great little steal coming on through. And they will take all those little helpers, sending it back to the owner of Rem here in just a few. Lowkey W, like I said, a big play out of them, keeping themselves in the game here. A 7k deficit so far. I think the biggest thing they could have happen right now is a kill on the OCs for sure. 21k. It's a big bag you can take from him, but more importantly, stop him from farming around the map.
Also, you take a look at item builds here. You know, the Evolution Shiv builds. You just eat your vegetables nowadays, in addition to the locket. More greens and purples. Hoot, line out the beast on the top and looking like cut down a little bit of that life from Fremont, but not really in position to commit, especially with OCs coming in out of nowhere. Gets a little bit of distraction here out of Listic. Enough to get the aggro on the OCs. In fact, the punish may be there with Cosmetical over on Lash. Just needs a little bit more, and Zergy gets the killing blow before it's all said and done. And that's going to be a long spawn timer. OC's dead for the next 40 seconds, Jason.
Yeah, so they're picking up the pieces. Step 1, take down OCs. Step 2, I mean, it looks pretty good, actually. There's no nap time. Size of impact's coming up soon. I don't think Overseas has it maxed out, though. And Fremont's going to be here to join in just a few seconds. They have the damage to take this one down, but this is still a little bit risky to do. But at least with OC's dead, Overkim's going to have to go huge here with the Hex.
Well, they still have swap available, and Leviathan is very willing to delay this. I like the fact that they're coming in now, not right as the Rejuve Crystal goes down, but to try and buy a little bit more time for OCs to get in on the back end of the fight. But here we go. Rejuve up and available. Rabbit Hex came down. Novakin picks up 2. All crystals to Leviathan. Or rather, to Lowkey W. But Leviathan now looking to just burn some of them away if possible. But instead, they lose Overseas and a very, very good mid-boss for Lowkey W here, Jason.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've completely caught up here. Hoot at 20k now. A great death slam and a Cosmetical to open up that actual Rejuve take for free. As the robot arm comes on through and doesn't connect onto anything here. And Lowkey W are right back in the game. Can we actually maybe take a look at the Souls... What's I don't even know the counters. Soul Differential, I think, is the name we gave it over the course of this game here, because you're going to see such a big step back here out of Lowkey W in this last little bit of engagement. You can see, yeah. I mean, most has still been in the way of Leviathan, and even right now they're still ahead by 1k, but the drop off was huge.
And the drop is going to be even more significant in a moment, because you got 3 Rejuve crystals. You didn't lose any of them in the mid-boss fight. You're now going to be able to leverage this to get way more farm on the map. And also, more importantly, Jason, next earn is in 15 seconds, and Lowkey W should be all over it. So you see Obakim. That's a lot of Leviathan members around Sinclair, and even with the evasiveness of Sinclair, this could be easier said than done. You clone the Nox Nostra, you go around, no matter where you turn, someone from Leviathan is there. So, Jason, this not only is going to be potentially a Rejuve down, but also could be a kill right after. But Obakim, has he actually done it? I think Obakim fully gets away. I mean, maybe there's a hook, but no.
Oh,
Sinclair also, wait, he got hyperlined at the very end. Here comes OCs!
Oh, the Great Escape, the Magician, he's real. He's getting back to his team. He's actually going to escape this one and rejoin the fight without losing a Rejuve.
That was a saga that we just witnessed. And while this was going on, Lowkey W utilizing the Rejuve for easy earn control, and yeah, I mean, you got Psy waiting in the wings, but not going to be any sort of real contest.
Can we get a Viper in the chat for that getaway?
Man,
that was unreal.
Yeah, it really was. And the fact of, we talked about like ways to get back in the game, like with the steps to do so, and we saw it play out kind of perfectly. And OC's now, he's fallen behind. He's equal to Zergy in farm, and I think he had like a 4 to 6k lead for a majority of the game here.
Well, in a way, Jason, is living by the OCs and dying by the OCs, because the reason why that mid-boss happens is that OCs went on the very long spawn timer, because OCs went for a deep dive trying to take down Hoot, and Listic was able to come in and create disruption enough for the rest of Lowkey W to get there and go for the punish. Death Slam. Meanwhile, going on the Rayek here. Hoot, gonna let out the beast. Up, over. Resto Locket comes in, but not enough to save. Wraith, gonna drop the telekinetic. Over as, okay, another 2 kills here for Lowkey W, and, you know, Leviathan trying to prevent damage to this walker, but easier said than done when Rejuve's in play.
Yeah, you gotta let this one go, man. They have 3 Rejuves, you have yet to take 1. You've lost out on 2 players. I mean, lucky for you, they're not your big damage dealers, but they are facilitators of kills with nap time and with these hooks coming on through. And for Fremont here, you really need to not die. You got to be so careful of these base guards going down. Overseas charging on forward, just trying to feint an attack to force them to back away, but they're not done just yet. Lowkey W take down some base guards on the left-hand side, and now retreat to take away the farm in the jungle as they sport a very big 13 to 14k lead after what felt like that game was slipping away out of their hands.
Well, I know we can go a little bit deeper on the data, courtesy of Tracklock. Let's take a look at the golden statue breakdown here and see how much permanent buffs are in play in favor of Lowkey W. And overall, you know, as I read it here, Jason, it's actually still pretty even, I think.
Yeah. It's definitely relatively even. I mean, even like Rem currently the biggest taker with Arizumi at 28, and he's got what, 120 HP, 21% ammo. Not the best thing for Rem, I would say, but the CDR is definitely helpful with the 3.3%. Remember, you guys can check out tracklock.gg and pick up the desktop app for yourself as well and use these kind of buff trackers in game for yourself. Not to mention a ton of other features that it does have for you to check out your teammates and your enemies to see what they are good and bad on. And of course, compare yourself to the others.
Jason, you know what I'm excited for? I don't know if it's in this week or maybe a future week, but it might be in this week. If Pocket gets played, I think we can actually show who gets hit by affliction on the UI now. I believe we have the technology.
No way. Is that a real thing? Has production been cooking? Okay. ZP, do your like convince some players to play some Pocket if possible, so we can see that happen.
Just players, please play Pocket. And then we get the first Pocket performance where 0 afflictions get hit over the course of the entire game.
that would be not great. That time being used defensively here. Good counterspell coming out of Hoot. He baits out a huge ultimate and gets away. A massive win for Lowkey W here on that.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside there for Hoot is it just did a little bit too much damage to the point that I think... Was that a tick of... It was like a tick from a dot that actually ends up triggering there. But, okay, Paradoxical Swap thrown into the ether. Tani Losan from Vrake gets the finish onto Sai. And the last 10 minutes has been Leviathan on the back foot ever since mid-boss. Working at 15k lead overseas. Seismic Slam decides to go in. Looking for Zergy. Brings Zergy on a little bit of a ride. And then immediately decides, nope, not where I want to be. The movement out overseas, though, there, Jason, ridiculous to reposition. Doesn't necessarily help the rest of Leviathan, though, as Irizumi gets caught.
Yeah, I love a little bit of the shoulder charge movement tech. I still have yet to be able to do this in a high intense moment. Or do it at all, because I'm just horrible when it comes to the movement.
Did you even play Abrams? I'm pretty sure you just play a bunch of Well, you play a bunch of everything, but more on the Infernus end and less on the Big Blue end.
There's a lot of 7 Viper, and I was trying to learn Infernus, but losing as many games as I've done on Infernus just leads me to believe I'm not a good Infernus player. You know, when Puck was asking you, like, you know, who's a good build to check out, and I was like, don't say Leffa, because no one can play like Leffa unless you're Leffa, so his builds do not apply to the normal person.
OC's was looking for Sinclair. Sinclair simply gets out of there via the assistant, and OC's not a ton of uptime in this game so far. By the way, look at Fremont. Fremont is stuck. Fremont needs an evac at the moment, like deep in the Lowkey W territory. Sai able to get the urn pickup whilst this is going on. Cosmetical, they have gone a little bit deep. Knocks Ostra on the silence into the fall through on OC's. So now Leviathan on a bit of a fast break themselves as mid-boss comes up 1 here so far. If you're Lowkey W, you would love to get a pick. And also, how did Fremont survive? Fremont is alive, Jason, after all that. I don't know if it's for much longer. And maybe overseas dies in the process, but...
He's got good movement. You talked about him as he really impressed you when it comes to Shiv, and I'd say his movement for sure has been one of the best in EU and how he uses those right clicks. But honestly, looking at that fight, I almost want to give the play of the day, our Shopify play of the day, to OC's right there, because the Nox Nostra on top of Cosmetical disabled any chance to get a big death slam off, and that alone allowed them to pick up a kill and then turn it potentially into more, though they did lose overseas after. But keeping things kind of equal here, without that big wombo, this is gonna be a tough combo to pull off.
Lowkey W they make for mid-boss and then turn back out, seeking the fight instead. And Rayek gonna get caught in the crossfire. Another one down. Lowkey W, though, getting a little bit wounded across the board. Nap time coming on out. Didn't quite see all who it got. Taking a look at Listic as Listic wants to get out of there. Sai on the assault. They get Zergy! One of the best picks they can get in the aftermath here, Jason. And Leviathan being scrappy, maybe about to turn this in their favor. Looking for Vrake. Paul, not the easiest chase down. Carbine gonna hit. OC's on the case. Death Slam out from Cosmetical. I think it was more of a defensive Death Slam to make a bit of space.
Yeah, and we're even seeing the early E shift coming on through out of OCs, which is very reminiscent of his style, depending on the teams he's up against. I think there was a game over in DSI on Sunday where he picked it up at like 13,000 souls, like his biggest investment off the bat, because he needed survivability, man, against like Kelvin, for instance, in that game. He definitely is, I would say, a master of not only Mina, but a master of knowing what items to take when. And as you saw right there, the E shift saved his life from that Death Slam.
Also, wisely, Leviathan not going for mid-boss. I think doing that even up an advantage against Sinclair would have been a disaster. Nox Astra into getting bunnied. The bat's still coming out. Another fight here in mid. Leviathan trying to make the most of their advantage. OC's diving in. It's a big rake. Gets Listic all sorts of low. Wants to go for the finish. You just see Billy at 2 HP. Tries to break the ankles in on the corner. Not enough to avoid the next rake. Fremok able to dive in a little bit deeper. Finds Hoot. And now Leviathan back in the driver's seat here, Jason. They're going to be able to go mid-boss after this. So long as they don't give up kills on the back end. They lose Fremok, and that definitely makes it a little bit more murky.
Do you think they want to go for it, though, with Obi Kim still alive? I'm still hesitant when there's a Sinclair. Maybe we can take actually a look at the build. I didn't quite check what Obi Kim has bought up in terms of items. If he has like Echo Shard with Max, Rabbit Hex, I definitely would not go for a mid-boss here.
I think there's an Echo Shard. I swear I saw Double Rabbit earlier, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see when we... Nope, there's no Echo Shard yet.
He's got greater expansion and superior duration. So even without Echo Shard, I would still be very hesitant with Rabbit Hex maxed out to go for that. Because in a best of one, okay, best of three, I could swing it. I could mentally get around it. But in a best of one, if you do that and you lose the mid boss, you could be looking at a lost game.
I think they just want the fake here. There's no way they full commit with Listic and Hoot back up in 8 seconds, but they do want to punish people that are out here looking for intel. The problem is that if it's Obikim that's fishing for intel, we already saw firsthand just how evasive Sinclair can be via Spectral Assistant. Probably, I would say arguably the hardest character to chase down in the game. Like, yeah, Celeste has raw movement, but the ability to just continually juke with Assistant brings it to another level. Slowing Hex, though, in on the OCs. This would be a massive pick. The chain gang comes out. E-Shift, though, is there. E-Shift buys time for OCs to get away. That one item, proving its worth and then some. Still, though, turning into a fight that we'll see if it fits Lowkey W's purposes or not.
You can see Cosmetical is just trying to look for an opportunity to actually get one of these Death Slams, but they've already lost Vraic. OCs was not dealt with, and he's going to have E-Shift up in 10 seconds so he can continue to fight here. And Lowkey W turned tail and run, and I think rightfully so here. You don't really want to give up any more kills. If you lose one more player, I think then you're looking at a for sure mid-boss to be attempted out of Leviathan, especially if they have all these ultimates still up and ready to go. It's a very, I think, tense point of the game, though, ZP. And I think with this next turn respawning back in here on this left-hand side is going to be, I think, a good determining factor of how this game is going to play out.
By the way, you're seeing the power of Sinclair in the draft. The fact that I think against most other comps, aside from maybe a Dynamo, Leviathan would have slammed mid-boss already. Yeah. But they do see Obikim and they go, maybe we shouldn't. And I believe that estimation is right. Sinclair's just that good at contesting, but oh dear. Is that OC's about to get survival? As if he wasn't hard enough to kill before, ask Listic 2 minutes ago as to the why. Yeah,
I mean, like the E-Shift. Survival and E-Shift, and he has Sanguine Retreat. I don't know if he has Dispel Magic, but I'm assuming he has it because it's Mina. Why would you not have it? Very slippery, very hard to deal with here. Not to mention, sorry, Rest Lock at no Dispel Magic, but they also even used a Phantom Strike that last time to pull him out of the air, and that wasn't enough to deal with him.
Mina is difficult, and it got hard over time too. Ever since her early game got nerfed and she got more late game options, it's like, hey, how would you like 3 Sanguines, even if they don't go as far anymore?
Yeah, she wasn't already hard enough to kill. Let's just give her a 3rd. Like, why not?
So Earn turned in. Leviathan working with a significant lead. Both buffs still on top. Also, I think the scary thing for Lowkey W2 is that in some of these neutral engagements, Leviathan is still running a double pick comp. They have multiple ways of getting on priority targets, even if some of the targets aren't super killable. Boot some warning shots in the vague direction of OCs.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of say I wanted to go back to the Bebop discussion if we're talking about double picks. I don't know really how much impact Rake has had. I don't know if we have this graphic ready, but it's possible to see a breakdown of player damage. I'm not sure if we have it like ready to queue up and show us or not, because that'd be really interesting to see where Rake is currently sitting at. I mean, do 20k. So it's not terrible, but he's also at Rem at 20k. So is it really high, or is Rem just doing a lot of damage? You know what I mean? I'm kind of torn between the two.
Well, maybe a huge collapse here on the Vrake. Just as we were talking about, you look at the mini map, it is just amber swallowing up blue. Nap time. Coming out here from Irozumi to set the stage, hitting both Listic and Obakim at the same time. Death Slam over from Cosmetical. Vrake already gone. Let's see if there's any sort of response. Overall, Leviathan still pretty healthy at the start of this fight. Look at the Freemok, who's very healthy in the back. Gonna get in with the telekinesis. We'll see if Zergy can put a little bit of the damage in. Restolaka gets popped, and Freemok's his HP isn't moving. Elsewhere in the fight, Side does go down, but Freemok is creating space and then some, keeping Zergy away from the fight. Goes back in, finds Listic, and Freemok just creating enormous room in this fight, Jason.
Plated with Radiant Regen too. He has so much sustain. So hard for Zergy to deal with him. Listic break, both dead. Who's trying to come in and pick up another kill here on the retreat, maybe on Overseas, maybe onto another bunny. I can't even tell who the hell that is, actually. It's going to be Bebop. Riggs, extremely low in HP, but Hoot's also overcommitted into this fight. He's most certainly going to fall, even if he takes down one. But the 1-for-1 trade might keep Leviathan off that mid bus even longer now because Obakim is still alive.
That last gasp out of Hoot, I don't think many silvers actually get that kill onto Rayek, but either way, Leviathan decide, yep, we're good, mid boss. And you're so farmed as OCs. The Nox Astra comes in. Not quite the old school Nox Astra versus mid boss, but hey, it's enough. But now we got to look at Obakim here, Jason. Can Obakim disrupt this? The Rejuve crystals coming down. Leviathan, they think they have the edge. They're going to have to take this against the interference of Sinclair. Nap time coming on in. The stolen nap time. Obakim gets one. 2 Rejuve charges still at stake. Overseas with the charge. Vrake is able to come in, get the second. All Rejuve charges to Lowkey W. A successful contest, but they lose 2 charges immediately. It may be a bit of a hollow victory as all Rejuve charges immediately go away, but at least they got the threat of mid-boss off the board.
Remember how we were saying doing mid-boss against the Sinclair is very risky?
Yep.
I think you're seeing why we say that. And obviously really well done by Obakim and Vrake together as well to pull those off, to be able to secure all 3 of them. Because if they lost that, the thing is they had to contest it, I think, at this point. If they lose all 3 Rejuves without contesting, without taking away a single one, I think Leviathan with the double picks could easily push into the enemy team here for Lowkey W and start to take the base. I don't think Cosmetical has anything to prevent from being dislodged. He doesn't have Unstoppable right now, so he could get a good Death Slam off.
Freemok run into Hoot in a dark corner while just trying to do a little bit of gambling. Lycan Curse coming on out, decides now the target's going to be a little bit Overseas. Listic comes in, drops a chain gang, and Overseas able to gather. I think Overseas may have Unstoppable now as cloned Hyper Beam coming out here from Obakim. A little bit of extra damage. Knocks Nostra off in the distance, courtesy of OCs. And that was directly on the Hoot, actually. I think Hoot just ate a face full of bats and may just barely be escaping here.
Yeah, he's gonna get back to base on pretty much 1 HP, but Cosmetical's not gonna be so lucky. New Listic getting swapped back into the enemy team, charged into a little grate, and finished off once again by OCs at 38,000 souls, proving they don't need the mid boss.
Also, it's no unstop on Overseas. It was probably a counter spell onto the chain gang. It was like a very, very far camera angle, so it's like,
Yeah, I can't wait until Valve puts out like a spec mode overhaul and seeing what kind of magic they can work, because it'd be really cool to see some like updates to things.
Well,
but yeah,
the tempo of the game here, by the way, OC's on the buffs. You see what OC's just got? A little bit of casting buff to Mina. As if OC's wasn't terrifying enough.
Can we actually go to OC's here for a second? I want to see what kind of golden statue buffs he has, courtesy of tracklock.gg and their app you can pick up yourself. But you can see here that Rake has got 225 HP, 5% ammo. Here we go, 23% ammo. He's got 3.8% CTR. He's got extra health as well. He's got 16 extra spirit power too, and some extra fire rate. Like everything is perfect for Mina here in this case, and he's making it work. I mean, this is gonna be tough to deal with, especially with like Isha, the protection of his team, Spirit Burn now, and Spirit Rend. He's gonna have a lot of sustain in these fights.
The interesting part here for your Leviathan, I don't think you go for a real base siege, but you threaten it and you look for picks. You leverage the fact that you have hook, you have swap, you have a lot of ways of getting someone into your team for an immediate beatdown. Mid boss is up in 1:40, so I don't think you do anything risky in terms of trying to hard force your advantage, where yes, you're up 27k. Yes, in terms of allocation, you have players like OCs that are right where they need to be. you're also not under pressure to make things happen right now. I think you can wait for a pick, and the dream pick for Leviathan, by the way, would absolutely be if they could pick Obikim, just because of the havoc he's been causing at mid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is they have so much to deal with everyone else everyone else besides him on the team that they don't have a great way of locking him down. And that threat of a Sinclair being alive, as we saw in the last mid boss, as we're going into the next one, shortly, it's something you have to respect. I mean, yeah, even though they did take away all the rejues and they did get a kill or two, that's not going to help you really finish the game. I mean, maybe when we hit the 50-minute mark, it could be.
It's kind of funny on the OC side. I just got reminded when we were doing the watch party. Vegas, I don't think, has seen a lot of competitive Deadlock recently. I think he was on vacation or something, and he joined us for a little bit in the watch party. It's like, wait, OC's maybe the best player of the game. Like, he was out here calling OC's LeBron and all this other stuff, mostly off the Wraith game where OC's was just crushing. But you look at the story of this game so far, especially who's been eating majority of the kills, and with the exception of one ill-fated dive, OC's been doing quite a bit of work. Speaking of, can we get a breakdown of the amount of kills in the game? I don't know if we have a track lock stat for it or we just hit tab, but I'd be curious.
Let's go blue.
There you go.
Yep, that passes 14. The eye test. What about you,
He's
Jason?
cheating? Mina's a cheater?
Pretty good, man. He's pretty good. I think, look at this, though. I think part of the reason he's been so successful beyond individual skill, I think, as you pointed out, ZP, Fremok is creating so much control, so much zoning potential when it comes to Zergy, who just can't do any damage to him. And they did get a catch onto, I can't, that's Listic.
Listic, yeah, Listic's in all sorts of danger. Gets hooked once, gets hooked twice. After getting swapped, after just getting the treatment from all angles, Listic is just getting crunched and no longer has control of his life, nor is in control of his character after being sent to spawn. And Sai was able to catch Zergy on the other side as this goes down. And Jason, mid-boss is up in 20 seconds. But Leviathan, they want a little bit more cosmetical. Unstoppable Death Slam gonna try and disrupt a little bit here. Certainly Fremok not particularly phased by it here so far. Overseas inside, the only two actually wounded, but you got what you were looking for here. If you're Leviathan, now you set for mid-boss, and admittedly, it's a little bit problematic because Obikim is up, but 6-on-4, you probably still like your odds.
Do you think they do it again, though? Do you think they really go for mid-boss another time with Obikim alive? And actually, they might have just kind of gotten baited into a fight themselves. Obikim has been slept up here. Nap time coming on through. Obikim, he needs to escape this one. Use that warp stone to create some distance. And of course, the spectral assistant. Leviathan, I mean, with these hooks coming on through, they have to be so careful to not lose another player. That's most certainly going to be a mid-boss being taken. And Sai's returning back from base here. These hooks are not going to land, and they have 20 seconds of time. I think they have a window to go for it, but I think playing for a catch here and a kill might be better.
Our timer was a little bit wrong. It was saying mid-boss was about to be back up, and mid-boss is clearly not about back up. So it wasn't quite the window of opportunity that the UI was leading us to believe here. So something got a little bit desynced. So with mid-boss not being up, they're not able to even make the attempt, which maybe ill-fated against Sinclair.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Obikim did before. I wouldn't put it past him to do it yet again.
I see the enemy.
There we go. Mid-boss spotted on in. And Leviathan, again, I think they're just using Rake here to look for these catches, look for a pick. You do have some assistance around him. Honestly, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, does Leviathan want to fake out a mid-boss, make it scream, and then go for a fight? Or would that play into Lowkey W's hands? Because you are going to be coming out of these like very crucial choke points where the Rabbit Hex could go huge. With now the Unstoppable Death Stun could do some serious work. Also Chain Gang. I think if you're Leviathan, you want to avoid fighting in like tight areas and avoid fighting kind of 6v6.
You kind of like the open if you're Leviathan at the moment in terms of your pick options between the Bebop and the Paradox, and the fact that you have more cursed relics being picked up. Nap time, though, going to be used super early into this fight up on the rooftops. This is an interesting start to the fight. You look for a little bit of damage on the Fremok, more like a lot of bit of damage. Fremok getting chunked at the start. Cosmetical Death Slam. We'll see who we got. Drops on down, overseas in size a little bit into the danger zone here. Fremok, though, takes down Cosmetical on the turn. Able to punish him for the Death Slam attempt, and look at the HP on Lowkey W. Multiple players at half HP. Listic gonna drop the Chain Gang, trying to get a little bit of control of the situation. Leviathan diving a little bit deeper on the chase down. Listic gets caught towards the end. Is able to just move out, but the chase down is still here. It's getting swarmed by 3 members. Chain Gang coming out once more. But this time around, Listic just going to fall with no one around. Another 2 clean pickoffs here, Jason. And do we go mid-boss once more for Leviathan?
think they probably should. Obicam, he actually ditched that fight after seeing Cosmetical go down and the retreat call being made. He actually shoved very hard on that left-hand side, maybe looking for that shrine. But here we go, mid-boss. Obicam is in the vicinity. Sai will not be here, so it's going to be a 4-on-5 fight. Zerg's got to quickly...
Just give me the Obicam cam. All I care about is Obicam right now. That's also all Leviathan should care about, where this is a strict anti-magic
Rabbits.
situation.
Oh man, they're giving the opportunity to go for the steal again. He has our participation up. Now time as well coming up first. Then of course it's gonna be the bunnies thereafter. There was an unstoppable used by someone. I think it was Fremok to make sure to secure the first one. And Lowkey won't steal a single one away and actually gonna lose a life or lose multiple lives. Obicam and Vrake both fall. Hoot and Zergy trying to get back to base as quick as possible here. And finally, I think ZP Leviathan are gonna crack the defense and finally break into the base.
Leviathan likely just won the game off that, where this time around they had the solution, just needed all the late game options, a few unstoppables, and more importantly, the final level of paradoxical swap, which could swap multiple people and just got all members of Lowkey trying to go for the Rejuve Crystal out of the middle, letting Fremok go in and clean up the rest. So now working with a near 40, actually near 50k advantage in souls here, Jason, and 3 rejuves. Lowkey just about no more chances left in this game.
Yeah, I don't see an opportunity for them to get themselves back into this one, especially with a nice little hook coming on through here onto Hoot, who's just gonna fall. There's really no way to escape this one. They don't really have any pick potential. The just the amount of raw souls they're going to be behind, translated into items, translated into just extra boons that Leviathan has. And maybe see Listic on the left hand side trying to shove this lane on out, trying to continue to push in towards that shrine, because they're going to have another respawn. It's not like Leviathan think are going to finish the game just yet. Even with the phase 1 patron being taken down, Vrake and Obicam going to be back alive. Listic can quickly get back to base.
I think for Leviathan, though, when you're this amount up and you have 3 rejuves, I think you just stay and go friend. Yeah, you should stay here. I don't think you have to play it safe. I think you have such an overwhelming advantage that you should be able to push and end it here and now. Second stage patron, now vulnerable. Overseas on the seismic slam, looking for targets. Meanwhile, second stage patron, the Archmother, just getting pummeled. Listic trying to buy some time off the chain gang. Itani Losan in the back here, held. Vrake just looking for the right opportunity, is gonna have to hold that a little bit deeper into the pause as Obicam DCs.
Oh man, and you're just sitting there thinking, what do I do here with Itani Losan? There's like no one really in his range to hit for it. And Leviathan, there's just 5 kills stop them from finishing off this game and getting a rematch up against Abrahams, who are waiting in the finals. The pause has been finished off here, and Fremok takes down Listic and ZP. I think that's going to be it. I think you've hit the nail on the head here. You might as well stay. You might as well just take the second stage patron, and Lowkey are throwing everybody they have at this.
Just need a little bit more, and the match against Abrahams is going to be complete. A final lash ult coming in from Cosmetical. It did not go far enough, not into the fountain this time. Archmother invulnerable by proximity, but Lowkey is starting to run out of bodies on the point. Leviathan, all sorts of healthy. You may be a rabbit for a moment, but the damage still coming in fast and furious onto the Archmother. And Leviathan just need a little bit more. Cosmetical falls, the damage comes in, and Leviathan, they get their matchup against Abrahams.
Bro, Overseas was at 2,000 healing with his Siphon Life in the pit was ridiculous. And you're seeing why Abrams is being picked more and more over the last few weeks. But Leviathan, that rematch from DSI, it was a best of 5. And this is a chance for redemption for him.
Huge start for Leviathan in a very exciting game, especially between about 80k souls to 150k souls. We saw the lead change 3 different times. ZP, you highlighted a guy, though, that got off to an early start, did not slow down. OC's on the Mina was prioritized. They made sure they locked her in early. Do we ban Mina or do we play Mina?
I think you're getting to the point that you have to ban Mina because you don't get a higher priority than first overall pick. Even 2 weeks ago, that would have been seen as heresy to have Mina that high up with all the other powerful picks in the draft. But OCs make something different of a hero than anyone else does in the game. And Leviathan clearly learned from what happened in DSI this weekend, where both Abrahams and Lowkey, they were taking second pick and they were always picking Mina. And this time around, Leviathan said, you know what? We're going to first pick Mina and we'll show you why it's worth it.
And I asked production, can you please get a lot of silver clips? Because I want to know what separates a good silver from an amazing silver. Because Hoot was taken over in the first half of the game. Freemock, though, is going to finish strong alongside Overseas Kaplan. Who was your favorite player to watch?
Favorite player, I think for me, I think it had to be Freemock, actually.
Yep.
I really enjoyed what ZP was talking about and what he saw about the space he was creating, constantly being towards the backhand lines against Zergy, so he couldn't be effective against the enemy backlines for Leviathan, keeping him in check, keeping someone back to protect him. I would honestly even go as far as saying that Freemock, for me, was the sidekick of the match.
I agree. I think Freemock looked really, really good. I think what stands out to me was that fight in mid lane that was a little bit spread out. And you see Freemock just taking the 1-on-2, not taking any real damage from Zergy in particular, zoning out the M1 carry out of the fight. And then halfway through decides, you know what, I'm actually going to go back to the main fight and instantly gets a kill. Freemock had really good game awareness here and also is making all the space you would want out of a frontliner. And I think Freemock was probably the glue that brought this all together, even with OCs having a remarkable performance.
Back it down.
Big win here from Leviathan, and you were mentioning the Sinclair is going to be prioritized. Can you guys talk to me and explain the mid-boss situation a little bit? Chat was a little bit confused. They were talking about rabbits. You guys were talking about everyone surging in at the same time. What is the ideal execution, and did they do it right the first time?
So the ideal execution is that Obikim, you have two priorities here. Number one is that you have Rabbit Hex, which is a huge AoE that stops people from punching the crystal. But the other thing Obikim was doing is that Obikim had to play Hunt the Rem. If you can find Rem, you can copy Nap Time and use Nap Time on the crystal when Nap Time is one of the absolute best ults for contesting. So you have this 1-2 combo where Obikim was not only landing good Rabbit Hexes for disruption on the Rejuvenator, but he was also able to copy Nap Time in multiple of these contests and make it work against Leviathan. So between the alt copying and the default functionality that you have on Sinclair, Obikim basically made mid-boss just absolute murder for Leviathan throughout the entire game.
An awesome graph, and you can see where it landed. It's Leviathan moving forward. A very strong finish. OCs is all over the rainbow. And of course, we're going to see the rest of the team moving on into a best of 3. Kaplan, we get to learn every week. What did you learn so far? What's the meta?
Sinclair is valuable beyond counter picks. I think I can be safe to say to that one. I think without a Sinclair being picked by Lowkey W, we would have saw mid-boss being used and utilized more often for Leviathan a lot earlier than we actually saw it being picked. I think Sinclair has kind of made his place in the mainstay when it comes to being picked because of the impact you do have in mid-boss, and a lot of teams relying on taking mid-boss to actually finish out games. I think that's kind of what I saw, and I still see, maybe for me, Wraith is to me what Geist is to you, Puckett, because I am really just not enjoying seeing Wraith at all.
I don't think she's having any success, at least not at the pro level. She might farm in pubs, but playing against some of the best, she's going to get punished a little bit too weak, too late in the game. ZP, let's take a look, though, at a player that was not weak at all during this one. In fact, buffed the rest of the squad. It's our sidekick, Freemock from Leviathan, dropping 50k souls. 10 kills was his finish. I want to know, where did Hoot finish? Was it 10 as well? 52,000 player damage and 5k objective. When you walk me through his build, for anyone who wants to be a Shiv player, what are some of the key items? Is it that silence wave? What are you looking at? Where do you really take over?
I think a lot of it, especially at the early to mid part of the game, is just survivability. Early reactive barrier, early restorative locket, radiant regeneration. I mean, the goal here is that if you want to make space, you have to be alive and healthy. And green items generally help you be alive and healthy, but you still get some extra damage later on, especially when you look at the tier 4 Spirit Item. They got an escalating exposure. That just has very good synergy with knives. If you could keep knives rolling, then people just kind of fall over. But the key for Freemock in this game is that Freemock was just able to continually push people back, make space, and while that's going on, if you're worried about Freemock, if a Shiv is forcing you back, you're not dealing with OCs who's actually chasing people down and finishing them off.
Yeah, man, I think yeah, Radiant Regen was huge. Plated armor as well. I think one thing he did really well in that game was realize what is his role, what is his job, and his job was keep Zergy away from these fights, and he itemized directly towards that one. He had the survivability with counterspell on top of that. He itemized specifically to do one job, and he excelled at it, and that's why he's the sidekick of the match.
We love it. Thank you very much, Shopify. And of course, if you don't know about the Sidekick, get in on it now. It's going to help you do what you do best, even easier. AI has changed in our lives. ZP, we've got 3 more games potentially coming from EU. Do you believe we'd get the game 3 we deserve?
Honestly, very likely. You look at this weekend. It started out with 1-1 between Abraham's and Leviathan, both throwing good shots at each other. Abraham's won the series 3-1 in the end, but Leviathan certainly good enough to still take maps off Abraham's, and hopefully we'll be in a situation where, at the very minimum, it goes to 3 here tonight.
As we go to break, I was wondering, do you think Mo has like claws, or does he have like Ninja Turtle hands? All right, think about that. We'll be right back. It's more Night Shift.